Hi, it's Andy with a Friday preview this week, and we are moving into the next part of Romans. We are still in this section, Romans 9 through 11, which is all about the Jew and the Gentile understanding of one another, understanding of God, etc. And the Apostle Paul, when we think about the Apostle Paul, there's not really a lot known about his physical appearance. He does make a comment about the fact that he can barely see. I attribute that to the stoning that he faced in Lystra that left him for dead, and I truly believe he did die, and that's where in 2 Corinthians 12 he said he was caught up to the third heaven and all of that, but we don't really have much of a physical description of him. We do know that he was repeatedly beaten. He was stoned, as I just mentioned. He would have certainly had the marks of all of those all over his body, but there is another reference from outside of Scripture that talks about Paul. It is undoubtedly about Paul. And whether or not it is true, we can't be certain. Again, it doesn't have the authority of Scripture behind it. But the statement that is made in this is for somebody to look out for Paul as they're coming, is that he is small in size, bald-headed, bow-legged, well-built, with eyebrows that met, rather long-nosed, and full of grace. Now, many have taken that and some other ideas together and suggested that Paul may have been about 4'6" tall. So he did not have a large stature by any stretch, but it does say he was well built. And that makes me wonder if Paul was athletic in some way. He talked about training his body in 1 Corinthians 9 and disciplining himself. So it's very possible. He talked about disciplining our bodies in 1 Timothy chapter 4 as well. And so there is that idea, and I do believe that he is very likely athletic, or at least, could have been. And I wondered that far before I knew about this resource that mentioned his description in some way, because a lot of what Paul talks about are various metaphors, sporting type metaphors. And this passage that we're looking at this week, very short, Romans chapter 9 verses 30 through 10:4, so Romans 9, 30 through 33 and 10, 1 through 4. Very short, 8 verses, but it has the idea of a race. Now, when you look at this, it's not as clear-cut of an understanding of a race, like he says, I have finished the race later in life, but it is about a race nonetheless. There's a lot of imagery about a race. But if we're going to run a race, we need to know the course that we are going to run. We need to know the destination that we are aiming for. And so this week, we're going to see that there are two different groups, the Jew and the Gentile, that are seemingly running the same race, but really they are taking two paths, which means it's not the same race at all. They might think they're on the same race, but Paul is saying to the Jew especially, the race that you're running is a dead end. You cannot finish the race the way you want to finish it. So the key for those that were reading it then, for us who are thinking about this now, is that Jesus has already won the race on our behalf. He won the race, and he has attributed that win to us. Because ultimately the goal of this race is righteousness, but we cannot attain righteousness on our own merits. We cannot do it other than by claiming that Jesus has won the race and putting our faith in that. So I hope you will join me on Sunday as we talk about this passage, continuing in this section, Romans 9 through 11. This week, Romans 9, chapter 9, verse 30 through chapter 10, verse 4.